The Vatican is denying it released the revised catechism on the death penalty to deflect attention from the sex abuse crisis that is rocking the Catholic Church. Capital punishment is now called inadmissible. Critics say it's a diversion from reforming the Church. Tonight we have reaction from the Holy See. We start our coverage with Vatican correspondent Juliet Linley.
Wyatt, earlier today I spoke to Greg Burke, the Vatican spokesman, and he rejected criticism of the timing of this revision. Greg Burke highlighted the fact that Pope John Paul II called for the end of the death penalty years ago. And I asked him how the Holy See will now be working with governments to abolish the practice around the world.
The Holy See will get the message out. That is what the Pope's strength in this is. It made a lot of news, obviously, even though we had been waiting for this for a while. If you look at this, this is Pope Francis completing something begun by John Paul II in the Gospel of Life. I think it was very clear what direction we were going in, and now it's become official.
You know, it's interesting that he has visited prisoners, but can we expect the Pope or the Holy See to go knocking on doors of governments, trying to get them to change their stance at a much higher level?
The Holy See's way is soft diplomacy. Okay, it's soft diplomacy, it always has been, it's the long game, and it will continue that way.
I'm wondering, does the Pope now want faithful Catholics in countries where the death penalty is still legal? Does he want them to change their stance on the death penalty and officially oppose it?
Well, I think it would be interesting to take a look at Catholics in the United States, for example, over the last couple decades, with the Gospel of Life and with John Paul II, who was so strong on the culture of life. Many people thought, well, that was anti-abortion. Certainly was anti-abortion, but it was also anti-death penalty and pro-life in general. Elderly people, euthanasia, that kind of thing. John Paul II really started to change the culture, I think, within the Church as well. That is important, and that should not be underestimated. What the Holy See said yesterday is the Church will work for the abolition. Now, I think that's up to individuals to do as they want to do. There's some Catholic groups that are very active in that.
We understand that the Pope actually decided on this revision in May, but you announced it 3 months later. So how do you respond to those critics that are perhaps implying that the timing was chosen to deflect attention from the current sex abuse crisis and specifically to Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's resignation?
My answer to the critics is I'm not a great believer in conspiracy theories. There are a lot of people in Italy who are. There are obviously some in the United States who are as well. I'm not really big on conspiracy theories. Things take time in the Holy See. The last rescript, this was technically called a rescript that was put out, also came out several months after it had been signed by the Pope. So you can think of all the great theories you want. I'll just tell you that the Polish translation was not finished until yesterday. And the Latin one, I think, just was finished this morning.
So you see the Vatican spokesman clearly defending the release of the updated point of catechism on capital punishment at this time, and other Vatican officials are backing the Holy Father up as well. Archbishop Rino Fisichella, head of the Vatican's Office for the New Evangelization, calling it true progress in continuity with previous church teaching.
Juliet, can we expect Pope Francis to continue pushing on this issue?
Well, that's an issue that's obviously very important to the Holy Father, Wyatt, and that's clear. And as Greg Burke said, he's made a lot of news, and he can get the message out there. Now, the faithful have to digest it, and that could be a struggle for some. Right now, the Vatican is gearing up for the World Meeting of Families in Dublin, Ireland in late August, and we can't predict if the Holy Father will address the death penalty there, but we can predict, Wyatt, that journalists will be questioning him on it.
Vatican correspondent Juliet Linley reporting from Rome. Thanks, Juliet.
Thank you, Wyatt.